Now we're going down south to North Carolina to check in with part two of Moses Sumney's Gray, which we talked about back in March, I believe, when it came out.
February,
In
actually.
February, yeah. And uh, at the time we talked about it, I think our main takeaway was that Gray Part One really showcases Sumney's uh, amazing vocal performances and seems like a bit of a step out of aromanticism, his critically acclaimed first album. In terms of, I think, direction and ambition, it seems like he was trying to go off and kind of write songs that were touching on more than just interpersonal relationship, which was the main part of aromanticism and kind of the human experiences around those. After listening to part two, did you have any new takeaways from this? Was there any songs or anything that really made you think differently from of Great Part One now that you've heard the second part of the album?
I'll be honest, no, I don't think my opinion really changed. Mainly because I already was holding Moses Sumney's talent and the Gray uh, prospect in already high esteem.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of more confirmation of what we expect, as you said, just incredible vocal performance, but also just kind of giving you unexpected music more often than not, whether it's like modulating his voice, crushing this wild falsetto, whatever he might be doing, he does kind of change it up frequently, despite the fact that it always feels in the vibe of his album. And because his vibe is so unique, it's hard not to just kind of be in wow. He's an artist that I have a hard time like describing and talking about because he does not a lot of like reference points. But yeah, I guess like the themes of like, was it mortality and identity, thematically it's similar to part one. And I don't know if any songs like blew me away or anything, but it's just kind of the whole prospect. Like there was that narration on and so what's the song called? Towards the back end.
And so I come to isolation.
Yeah, that sounded really cool. And in the beginning, the first track of this part two dogs, I really liked that. Like there's like a second voice in the background of the production that kind of really added to it. And on bystanders, it really kind of builds up. Yeah. And there's definitely really cool moments. But overall, Moses Sumney, man, he's just kind of hard to pin down, and that's the case once again. So 20 songs now for this Gray album. 20 songs, about an hour. I don't know if anything is like easy to like take away from the album. It's kind of just like a vibe you just kind of float through, but yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, that the voice you're talking about, I think they have a couple of spoken word parts. Is Tai? My handwriting's terrible. I think it's Tai Salasis, and she's this Nigerian Ghanaian author, and a lot of what she was talking about was like the multiplicity of self and how there's like the parts of ourselves that we show people, the parts of ourselves that we feel like aren't things we want to show people, and how you kind of wrestle with being this whole person but feeling like you can only show parts of yourself. And I really feel like that encompasses and kind of it's a good thesis statement for this album, right? Because it feels, in that identity, or the identity of the album, as this expansion of ideas and of direction for Moses to try some things while keeping his own sound and this uniqueness. I think he really took some chances and had some really cool production on here. I think he had some collaborators that fit really well for what he was going for, like James Blake, Thundercat, Onitrix or
Point Never, right?
Yeah, whatever. But they are kind of these unique song or artists in their own right, and to have them kind of come in and help him flesh out these ideas while keeping this like auteurmanship about it. The music videos he has are very interesting and unique, to say the least. He's just a very singular person, and I think the fact that we can't pin down a good way to describe him actually is probably the best way to describe him, that there really is no other artist like Moses Sumney right now, and that's what makes him so exciting. So I'm actually really excited to talk next week about Perfume Genius, whose newest album is getting kind of compared similarly to this album in terms of just like the inability to like define it and kind of using that duplicity of self. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll be kind of bringing Gray into the discussion next week when we get to Perfume Genius. You mentioned a couple of songs. I think the only one I really wanted to point out that you didn't mention was Me in 20 Years. The transition from Bystanders to Me in 20 Years is just so beautiful to me. And those two songs paired together were the highlight of me for the second half of the album. But really, the whole thing, you can find something in each song that I think is just unique and wonderful. So it's worth a listen if you're not a Moses Sumney fan. We highly recommend him.